In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming very extreme looking pattern where we have tons of storms moving through the nation, a huge surge of activity, many new areas now seeing above average activity on these models. We have snowfall in very strange areas for this time of year, just widespread throughout the nation. So we're going to look at that. Take it with a grain of salt, though. I got to put that in the beginning for those of you that don't make it to that point of the video. I am a little bit skeptical of that. We will dive into it. But major cold air on the way for the nation on multiple occasions. I'm a little more confident in. We're going to talk about that as well. So let's just dive into things. Taking a look here at this evening on this beautiful Sunday, November 17th. What we see is a pretty decent storm system across the northwestern portion of the nation. 995 here, bringing snowfall to the Cascades, northern Rockies here. We also have a pretty decent low near northern Mexico there, near the border of Texas. We do see some snowfall there for the southern Rockies, very far southern Rockies, and some thunderstorms and showers flaring up from Mexico through Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana there. All of those areas experiencing some thunderstorms and showers. Also for south central or southeastern Canada, kind of in between there, we do have a pretty decent low up here as well. So we have this kind of trilogy of lows taking place. Let's go ahead and take a look at Monday afternoon on November 18th. What we see here is a 981 millibar low pressure center taking place across Kansas. We see this cold front dragging underneath, so experiencing potential severe weather and thunderstorms here throughout Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Kansas there, Missouri, all of those states. And then we have a warm front up here to the north, and this is going to be more showery activity there on that northern extent. Meanwhile, we look at the northwest and we see continued major snowfall here for a lot of the Cascades. Rockies here, really prevalent. Let's take a look at Tuesday here on November 19th. What we see is pretty major cold air here across the west, and then a little bit warmer here in the east. And this is completely different than what we're going to be seeing in the medium to long range, by the way. So just bear with us. We do see snow showers continuing for the Cascades and Rockies. More major snowfall here for south central Canada in through areas like North Dakota, Montana, and Minnesota as well. We have a decent little Gulf Coast low pressure center there, and that's going to be nearby Florida, nearby Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, and this is bringing rainfall to plenty of those Gulf Coast locations. And not only that, we see for some of the Gulf states up through the Appalachian Mountain Range here, we're seeing more and more areas dealing with this showery activity and overall rainfall. Wednesday on November 20th, we see a 994 here for the Great Lakes, so we're seeing some showers, even snowfall perhaps for Michigan there taking place. And another interesting thing about this day is this is the first little shot of cold air that we're seeing move into the Midwest, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, and we're starting to see this warm air really push northward out west. Interestingly enough, this is about a day earlier than we've been seeing the models showing this, so they're starting to push this back a little, or I guess forward a little bit, thankfully. And we're seeing this become more likely to happen a little bit sooner, which increases the odds quite a bit. I mean, we're only 3 days away from this, so confidence is sky high. We do see snowfall happening across the northwest corner of the nation again, and this shouldn't come as a surprise, really. By Thursday, we see widespread cold air for a lot of the northeast corner of the nation. That includes the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, Northeast here. And again, look for the dippage here. We see dipping all the way to the Gulf Coast. So even though you're not in the blue, that doesn't mean it's not cold. We're actually seeing colder than normal conditions for most of, if not all, the eastern United States. And on the other hand, much warmer in the west, pretty much no matter where you're at here. Unless you're along Canada here, we're seeing milder air than what we have been seeing. We do see a couple of decent lows here in this area of cold, and this is leading to some snow showers. And I'm not too skeptical of that. I think snow showers are fine, and they do happen in this late November timeframe for areas like Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania. It's not that far-fetched. We are seeing more major amounts for northern Indiana, as well as areas of southwestern Michigan. Also, the mountainous northeast seeing some more major snowfall. It's a little bit later on, we're going to see some more substantial stuff. So let's take a look at Friday on November 22nd. Again, this low is now overhead here for upstate New York. Some snowfall, especially in the mountainous areas. Again, I kind of am on board with this. This looks pretty realistic to me for the time of year. Rain in the coastal and lower elevation areas. This looks wonderful and really not too far-fetched, which is usually what I like to see, obviously, because I want this to be something that's reliable. We do see it kind of become a lot more of a major low between Maine and Canada there, bringing heavier snowfall to Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. Again, stuff that happens, every year, every other year, something like that. We do see a low like this in November, December timeframe. So nothing too crazy. The West, we continue to see heavy snowfall in the Northwest. So wait for the total snowfall. It's going to be huge. As we keep going towards Sunday here on November 24th, we see snowfall here along the Rockies, also the Northern Plains here taking place. As we keep going towards Monday on the 25th, we see this cold air is once again getting directed towards the east. And a lot of this is due to this milder push that we're seeing from the south here along the west. This is causing this to kind of just skirt right into the east. Couple things happening. We have a low here across the west and also the Ohio Valley. We'll move into this one in a second, but for the west, we see continued snowfall a little bit further south this time. We're talking some of the southern Cascades and some of the, northern Rockies, but the Sierra Nevada is really getting involved this time around with very heavy snowfall for the Monday, November 25th timeframe. Also, we have this low in the east, a little bit of a dragging cold front bringing some showers, maybe thunderstorms to very far south areas, and then even some snowfall here on the northern extent of that low. As we keep going towards Tuesday, again, nothing crazy here, but we do just see significantly colder air than what we have been seeing. This is going to be what you guys have kind of been waiting for, which is just, 5 to 10 degrees below normal, maybe even pretty close to normal, but it's still going to feel 5 to 10 degrees colder than what we have been seeing a lot of, which is, 60s, 70s, much milder temperatures. This is nothing like that. We are seeing very on par, if not slightly below average temperatures here, even by this point. There is times where we're seeing far below average temperatures, such as that first cool down, and a little bit more on the way in a second. We see a stronger low taking place across Colorado. We see snowfall for some of the Rockies, Sierra Nevada here. Just again, a monstrous snowfall situation out west. And what we see by the time we reach Wednesday on the 27th is something very extreme. We see a low between Kansas and Missouri. North of this, we see substantial snowfall for Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, South Dakota, North Dakota. And this isn't too far-fetched for these Midwest and Northern Plains areas. They do see blizzards sometimes in November or December. So I'm not saying that this is impossible. It's a little bit less likely than the mountainous snowfall that we've been seeing. As far as just historical stuff, and it is about 10 days out, but I would say a storm like this could happen, and we're going to be watching for it, especially on the forefront of another major Arctic blow where we're going to just see cold air move in once again. Even as that colder air is moving in, we still look relatively cold here in the east, so the areas in between the big cooldowns, or the time frames I should say, are still near average to slightly below average. So it's not going to be these massive warm-ups in between that we've been seeing, at least according to this model. I'd say the only sign of mild air is something like this on Thursday, November 28th on Thanksgiving, where we get a little bit of a southerly wind here where it's coming from the south, it's moving up the east coast, and we see a little bit of a milder push right before this Arctic blast comes in. That's very common out ahead of very strong cold fronts. So again, dragging cold front right here. Pretty typical stuff. And again, look at the ingredients here. We see this milder push in the west once again, and this forces the cold air to move right over that area. We see a storm right here on the northern fringe. Again, northwest seeing monstrous amounts of snowfall, and also the Great Lakes, as well as bits of Canada, seeing quite a bit of snowfall there as well. By the time we reach Friday here, let me make sure I didn't miss anything here. We do get some snowfall along the Appalachian Mountain Range in between Thursday and Friday here, as a secondary low tries to develop here by Friday underneath all of this, and we see some snow showers and even a little bit more persistent snowfall for these mountainous and interior areas. Again, much colder on this date, and we're seeing severe cold, especially here in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. Actually, from what I could tell right here, we see very cold air, and again, pretty substantially below average for a lot of these areas in here. It looks like there's another round of it that could move in, so let's just watch and see what happens. Snowfall along the Rockies once again, as they're continuing to see a pretty extreme fall as far as snowfall. Saturday on the 30th here, a couple of things setting up. Again, the warm, milder air is continuing. Snowfall there along the Rockies and Cascades, and we see this cold air swinging in right here, very extreme. And we see some instability here in between on the southern end of this, and we're going to watch this to swing up This is what I'm a little bit more skeptical of, especially beyond 300 hours. Absolutely crazy. But actually, it kind of all moves down and becomes a little bit more like a nor'easter. So I lied a little bit. We continue to see the cold air in the east, and we even see snowfall for the northern plains and Midwest and Rockies again. But watch as we reach Monday, December 2nd, we get this pretty massive nor'easter moving up the Carolina coast, and all of a sudden we have snowfall throughout the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic once again. Watch as we head overnight. It's right near the Delmarva as far as where this low is located. This is a little bit more offshore, it'd be a much more major situation, but we see continued snowfall threats for the Great Lakes, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast here, especially for the higher elevation and more interior areas. Very far out, take it with a grain of salt. This is the number one thing on this entire model run that I'm skeptical of, but anything's possible, right? And I think it just goes to show how severely cold this upcoming pattern could really be. Total precipitation, we're seeing huge amounts in the Northwest still with storm after storm after storm, but continued large amounts for the plains and Midwest. But the East here, we're seeing a significant upgrade in how much precipitation we're seeing with a couple storms moving up like this. We end up getting into the above average category for most areas here. The Northwest continues to be far above average. The kind of plains and Midwest continue to be above average, but the East now adding into that category, this would be great news. Total snowfall, again, take most of this with a grain of salt. This is huge amounts. The West, I think, is even a little overkill, potentially. We're seeing, 3, 4, 5, 6 feet, maybe more of snowfall throughout the Cascades, Sierra Nevada, and most of the Rockies. So that would be massive amounts, but expect at least multiple feet. So at least, 1, 2, 3, 4 feet for most or a lot of these areas. Definitely something to watch for. A lot of the northern plains and Midwest, we get multiple snowstorms through there. So we're looking at 1 to 2 feet in a lot of these areas over the course of multiple storms. Pretty realistic, but the odds of us hitting on all of those storms that this model is showing are relatively low. But look for an increased chance of snow coming up soon for this northern plains, upper Midwest area. And then for a lot of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, we see quite a bit as well, especially in the mountainous areas. We're looking at multiple feet here as well. I would say, definitely we need to pump the brakes on this. Some snowfall coming up is looking more likely, just like the upper Midwest and northern plains. But I would say this is a little bit lower odds than that northern plains and upper Midwest area is. They historically see more snowfall this time of year. But for the mountains like the Catskills, Adirondacks, Green Mountains, White Mountains, I would say for sure the chances of snowfall are on the increase based on the pattern that we're moving into. Now let's take a look at the temperature pattern, a little bit warmer for a tiny bit, but look at this. Cool down number 1 moving in for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Again, a little cooler still, even in between these cooldowns. And then boom, by Tuesday the 26th, we have another huge cooldown, Wednesday, Thursday, and then here comes that massive one, Friday the 29th, Saturday the 30th, and then here's December 1st. This will be quite the way to start out December. Brutal cold in the east and continued warmth out west, and we even get another one on the way here for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th time frame with a huge positive PNA pattern out west continuing. So if this type of a pattern sets up and we see continued cold over the course of potentially weeks, be on the lookout for snowfall. I think that we would hit on something if we continue to see significant cold for a long period of time like that. It's almost like Murphy's Law. It's going to happen if we see continued cold for that long. So we'll be watching for this. We do upload every single day, so be sure to subscribe for daily weather videos just like this one. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.